Good morning, kingdom builders. Let me make this plain. Your life is not happening to you, it's being built by you, and the construction site is your mind. The thoughts you think every single day are not random. They are bricks, they are blueprints, they are instructions to your future. You don't wake up one day with a house, a marriage, a career, a calling that just happened. No, it was designed in your thinking long before it ever became visible. Everything in your life is downstream from your mind. If your thinking is right, your results will catch up. But if your thinking is off, your life will always feel like it's falling apart, no matter how hard you work. You can go to the gym every day and still feel weak in your soul if your mind is filled with defeat. You can show up to church and say amen and still be tormented by fear and insecurity Monday through Saturday if your mind is still full of doubt and shame. You can build a six-figure business and still be living paycheck to paycheck emotionally because your mind hasn't caught up with your bank account. Why? Because the mind is not just where you process reality, it's where you create it. See, before God ever formed man with his hands, he thought him into existence. You were an idea in the mind of God before you were ever breath in the lungs of Adam. The word says, in the beginning was the word, but that word came from God's mind first. Creation began with a thought. So why would you believe that your life will change just because of hustle, just because of effort, just because of grind, if your thinking hasn't changed first? Let me ask you something, Rope. Your thoughts were a playlist. What song are you playing on repeat every day? Is it the anthem of fear? Is it the soundtrack of self-doubt? Or is it the rhythm of vision, faith, power, and purpose? Because I'm telling you, your inner dialogue becomes your outer reality. Your mind is the soil and your thoughts are the seeds. You can't plant poverty in your mind and harvest prosperity in your life. You can't sow scarcity and expect abundance to show up. You can't water anxiety and expect peace to bloom. And don't tell me what you want, tell me what you believe. Because your belief system is the blueprint your brain is using to build your life. If your mind is filled with thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I always mess up, nothing ever works for me, then you are handing the contractor of your future a plan for destruction, not development. I remember when I realized my mind was the battlefield. I kept wondering, why do I feel stuck? Why am I spinning my wheels? Then I had to face the hard truth. It wasn't my job. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't my background. It was my thinking. I had built a prison in my mind, and I was the one locking the door every morning. But the moment I decided to upgrade my mindset, everything started shifting. Not overnight, but definitely over time. I started thinking like a leader before I had a title. I started thinking like a millionaire before I saw a dime. I started thinking like someone called even when no one was calling me. And guess what? My life started rearranging itself to match the blueprint in my brain. So if you want to change your life, stop looking at the outside and start designing the inside. Because your mind is not just a battlefield, it's a building site. And what you think is what you become. Listen to me, you don't behave your way into identity. You believe your way into identity. Because your actions are not the cause, they're the effect. What you do consistently comes from who you believe you are. You want to change your life, you've got to stop trying to fix your behavior and start upgrading your identity. The world says fake it till you make it, but I'm not here to teach you how to fake anything. I'm here to tell you that if you don't renew your thinking, your activity will always sabotage your destiny. Because deep down, you will always act in alignment with the story you believe about yourself. That's why a proverb says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not so he might become, not so he's trying to be, so is he. You are not what you do what you are. I remember when I was trying to build a business but still saw myself as a struggler, trying to close deals but still thinking like someone who had to convince people to please believe in me. And I'll tell you, every time I walked into that room, people could feel it. I didn't walk in with posture, I walked in with apology because I didn't believe I was valuable. So my activity, my body language, my words, my energy, all matched my internal identity. Let me help you here. If you see yourself as broke, even if you make money, you'll find a way to lose it. If you see yourself as unworthy, you'll sabotage good relationships and call it discernment. If you see yourself as lazy, you'll procrastinate and then beat yourself up and call it just who I am. But that's a lie from hell. That's not who God made you to be. That's who your wounded thoughts trained you to become. Identity isn't just about affirmations. Identity is a spiritual agreement. You have to come out of alignment with the lies the world told you and into agreement with what God already said about you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are the head and not the tail. You are created in the image of the Creator himself. So why are you living like a copy when you were designed as the original? When your identity is clear, your activity flows with ease. The person who believes they are a leader doesn't have to force themselves to lead. They just lead. The person who knows they are disciplined doesn't have to fight for consistency. It becomes natural. Because your brain is always working to make your life congruent with your self-concept. That's why people can go to event after event, buy course after course, and still feel stuck. Because deep down, they haven't given themselves permission to become the person their results require. So what does this mean for you? It means your daily decisions are actually identity confirmations. Every time you hit snooze, you confirm a story. Every time you doubt yourself, you reinforce a label. But every time you show up when it's hard, every time you speak life when you feel low, every time you execute with excellence when no one is watching, you are rewriting your identity in real time. It's not just about what you're doing, it's about who you are becoming. Because the greatest transformation doesn't happen when your income grows, it happens when your image grows. How you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you carry yourself. You've got to stop identifying with your dysfunction. Stop calling your fear wisdom. Stop calling your pain personality. Stop calling your hesitation humility, and start declaring the truth. I am who God says I am. I am becoming everything he designed me to be. I walk like it, I talk like it, I think like it, and I act like it. Because your thoughts form your identity, and your identity drives your activity. And once your identity is aligned with heaven, you won't have to force momentum. You'll flow in it. Let me hit you with something real. It's not being broke that's killing your potential. It's thinking broke. You can recover from financial poverty. People do it every day. But mental poverty, that's the silent killer. That's the invisible ceiling you didn't even know was there until you tried to rise and hit your head on it. See, financial poverty is a condition, but mental poverty is a curse. It's a belief system passed down like an inheritance of limitation. Mental poverty says people like me don't win. Mental poverty says I better play it safe because nothing ever works out. Mental poverty doesn't need a jail cell. It builds its own bars in your mind and then convinces you that you're free. I've seen folks with no money but massive vision who rise up and change the game because they refuse to let their bank account define their blueprint. And I've seen others with six-figure incomes and seven-figure debt emotionally, mentally, spiritually bankrupt because they never dealt with the poverty within. And let me tell you something, because I lived it, I was raised in financial lack. But the real war wasn't in my wallet, it was in my head. I had to unlearn generational mindsets of just enough. I had to break out of the script that said success was for those people over there. I had to delete the mental file that said money is evil and install the truth that the love of money is the root of evil, but money in the hands of the righteous is a weapon for good. Listen, if you put a millionaire mindset in a broke person, they'll find a way to rise. But if you put a broke mindset in a millionaire, they'll find a way to lose it all. Why? Because money will always follow mindset. The resources in your life will expand or contract to the size of your thinking. Now, I know what some of y'all are saying. Well, Myron, I just want to be humble. So let me help you with that. Poverty is not humility. There is nothing holy about lack. You can't bless people when you're begging for help. You can't fund missions, build schools, or feed nations when you're always trying to keep the lights on. We serve a God of abundance. He said he came to give life and give it more abundantly. So why are we thinking in scarcity, praying small prayers, and living like orphans when we're sons and daughters of the King? Mental poverty shows up in your decisions. It shows up when you undercharge because you're afraid to own your value. It shows up when you say yes to every opportunity because you're afraid it might be your last one. It shows up when you don't invest in yourself, not because you don't have the money, but because you don't believe you're worth it. You want to change your outer world? You've got to evict the poverty in your inner world, because you can't create prosperity in a mindset trained to survive. You can't build wealth with thoughts wired for worry. You can't operate in purpose when your thinking is rooted in panic. God did not give you a spirit of fear. He gave you power. He gave you love. He gave you a sound mind. And when your mind is sound, your decisions follow, your leadership shifts, your standards rise, your life transforms. But if you don't handle mental poverty, no amount of strategy, coaching, or opportunity will be enough. You'll sabotage every blessing God sends your way because your mind is stuck in survival mode. So today, make the decision. You may have been born into lack. You may have been raised around limitation, but that is not your destiny. You are not defined by your past. You are not sentenced to small thinking. You are a new creation with a renewed mind and a purpose too big to fit inside a mindset of lack. Because when the mind expands, your world has no choice but to expand with it. Let me tell you something that will either build your destiny or bury your potential. Your mouth is writing the script your life is reading from. The words you speak are not just sound waves, they are spirit-formed seeds. Every sentence that comes out of your mouth is either shaping your future or shackling your progress. You don't just speak words, you speak worlds. The word says life and death are in the power of the tongue. That's not just poetry, that's principle, that's law. You don't get to break that law. You only get to choose which side of it you live on. When you speak life, you activate purpose. When you speak death, negativity, fear, doubt, you deactivate destiny. And it doesn't always sound like cursing. Sometimes it sounds like casual complaining. I'm so tired. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm just not that kind of person. Those don't sound like daggers, but they're slicing your future one small cut at a time. Let me make it plain. Your words are instructions your brain obeys. Every time you speak, your mind takes notes. If you say you're overwhelmed, your mind says, let's shut down. If you say you're not capable, your mind says, okay, I'll stop trying. But if you say I am equipped, your mind starts looking for strategy. If you say I'm built for this, your spirit stands up taller. Your language teaches your body how to behave. But here's where it goes deeper. You don't just speak for survival, you speak for legacy. Because what you say, your children will absorb. What you confess, your family will inherit. When you speak fear, you hand it down like an heirloom. When you speak vision, you create a new bloodline. This is bigger than multiplication. Do you want to know why some families stay stuck generation after generation? It's not because of a curse in the house. It's because of a pattern in the mouth. Daddy always said, we can't afford that. Mama always said, I guess this is just how it is. And that vocabulary built a box. A nice, neat, invisible box called realistic. But realistic is just a fancy word for resigned. And too many people have learned to live below what's possible, all because they inherited someone else's limited language. But you've got a decision to make. You can repeat what they said, or you can declare something new. You can keep echoing fear, or you can speak faith. You can keep describing your struggle, or you can prophesy your future. I remember when I had to stop saying what I felt and start saying what I believed. I had to stop describing my life as it was and start declaring it as it should be. I looked around and saw struggle, but I spoke wealth. I felt tired, but I spoke strength. I had no open doors, but I spoke access and favor. And let me tell you, my circumstances didn't shift first. My confession did. My life didn't change until my language did. Because you don't see it, then speak it. You speak it until you see it. And this isn't just hype, it's holy. In Genesis, God didn't use his hands to build the world. He used his voice. He spoke light. He spoke creation. He spoke life into dirt and made Adam stand up. You are made in the image of that same God, so why are you walking around speaking like you're powerless? You don't need to beg for breakthrough. Declare it. You don't need to wait for affirmation. Command it. Because you don't need to rehearse defeat. Announce victory. You've got to speak life over your business. But speak life over your family. Speak life over your mind. Speak life over your body. Speak life over your finances. Because when you speak life, heaven takes notice. And when you think legacy, your decisions stop being about what feels good now and start aligning with what builds generational impact. You weren't put here just to survive a paycheck to paycheck cycle. You were put here to break chains, build empires, and raise up a new standard. But it starts in the mind, and it is released through the mouth. So speak life, think legacy, and let your words do what your hands alone never could. Build a future that outlives you.